Hello, and a warm welcome to Living the Dream French Riviera, the podcast where we explore women's professional journeys while relocating to the south of France. I'm your host, Cécile Liconnet. Today I'm joined by Vicky, whose move to the south of France was a carefully planned dream years in the making. After building her career within major financial institutions in both the UK and France, Vicky later completed a demanding French master's degree in financial engineering, studying alongside students half her age. With that qualification in hand, she stepped away from corporate security and founded her own financial planning practice. In this episode, we talk about navigating French bureaucracy, social charges, cultural differences, and what it truly takes to build professional credibility in a country that isn't your own. We also explore financial confidence, female empowerment, and the reality behind the Riviera dream. Vicky, thank you so much for joining us. Today, I'm really looking forward to hearing what brought you to the south of France and how your journey here led to a meaningful career in finance. But before we get to that, let's go back to where it all began. When did you first move to the Riviera? Where were you coming from? And what was life like at the time?
Brilliant. Thank you for inviting me today. I first moved to France in 2006. August 2000 exists. It's engraved on my mind. The first flight out of Gatwick, very early. I was 29 years old. I came over with my husband, Sam, from a very, very, very planned move. This was not an accident. We were students together, myself and my husband. I distinctly remember sitting on a beach near Perpignan. We were 21 years old. We were on a kind of gap year from university. And I remember sitting there thinking, wow, can you imagine having this life? The mountains, a foreign country next door, Barcelona and Spain, and Montpellier, Narbonne, all these really cool towns, sunshine, culture. I remember thinking at that time, well, one day this could be for us. And we got back from that year abroad, and that was it. We decided to plan that this would be our life. It wasn't an option. We wanted that life. We wanted the sun and the sea and the mountains and culture. So obviously there's a lot of things to do before you up sticks and leave. We had to finish our degree, and then we decided that actually it would be better to move to a foreign country with some money. So we set this challenge of, it's quite when you think it's I think for the time, 2000 and, it was kind of like 2001, we're gonna have to save £20,000. And we're like, wow, because otherwise how do you make this move? But we both got jobs. I got a financial job, he was in recruitment, and we managed to save £20,000. And I remember the day came and it was like, wow, we can actually make this dream. We're gonna move to France, we're gonna do it. And strangely enough, my husband got headhunted. The very ironic thing is he was a headhunter and he got headhunted. And he sent me a text and he said, hey Vic, do you want to move to near Nice? And I was like, what? And he was like, yeah, I've been headhunted. Should we do it? And it was like, wow, we never expected to get jobs. He never expected to get a job. So we arrived in the south of France with work. I had a self-employed role, financial advice, and he came with a job. And I think that's what made it even better, having a salary, being able to rely on a salary, at least one salary. It was not by chance, is what I would like to say. For us, moving from Manchester, which is where we were based prior for 9 years, it rained a lot in Manchester. So we arrive at Nice Airport in August. It's like the dreams come true here. Blue sky, it's fabulous rosé wine. We had a red Vespa driving up and down the coast. The life just changed instantly. It was crazy, but it was something that had been planned. I think that's really important because some people arrive here in different situations. We didn't take a risk as much. We waited. We did wait. Really, to be honest, I didn't have that much experience of France. The love of France was born from a French teacher when I was 10 years old. So it's kind of in me from a very young age that France was important. I loved the French language. I loved French literature. But I didn't really know France. I didn't go to France. I hadn't been on holiday to France. It wasn't until I was 18 that I had my first French experience and I got a job with the British Council. I applied and I was very lucky. I was one of 20 selected UK-wide to represent the UK and to teach in schools. I never thought I'd get it. I was from working class family, Newcastle, a very, very let's say, not great school, but my French teacher pushed me and said, you can do this as well as anybody else can do this, so you're going to apply. So at that age, at 18, I left Newcastle for the first time, crying on the train, sobbing my heart out, leaving my hometown. And I end up on this programme with the British Council for 6 months. That was my first experience of France. That was near Bordeaux. And then really, going to university, studying, we didn't, until the year abroad, I didn't really, have any time in French or speak in French, really. And then I got a job, and again, I wasn't going to France. But it was still my dream. It was something in me that it had to be France. So I didn't really have, apart from the British Council, I didn't really know Paris, I didn't really know France itself, and I didn't really know truly its culture. It was just the dream that I had. So the culture was a little bit of a shock, in all honesty, for the paperwork. I'm gonna say it straight away. I had very good French. My husband had very good French. I cannot imagine what it must be like for people coming here with no French, to be able to call Orange, to call Bouygues, to call the electricity board, to get yourself, sort your bills out, to explain to someone on the phone why you need this account, etc., etc. So I struggled. I really struggled, even with my degree. And the customer service was so different to what I was used to in the UK. I'll never forget one example in Castorama, asking somebody on the first few weeks of moving here if they could help us find a certain item that we needed. And they kind of shrugged their shoulders and said, it's not my department. I don't work there. Go find someone who works in the department. And another one was when very, very, very bad customer service from Orange, where we were on a kind of three-way call. I was listening in, my husband, and they thought they'd paused the call and they started to criticize us online. So we were like, oh no, is this because we're English? Is this what expats get? They're going to get bad service. But actually, very quickly, we realized that we were standing in Conforama and we saw French people having the same experience. No customer service at the desk, an argument with the lady on the till. And then we were like, it's not just the expats. Everybody gets the customer service, and it's cultural. So now you know it, and you accept it. Things have changed, obviously, since then. We're talking 19 years. Culturally, it was a little bit of a shock on the customer service side of things. That's for sure, definitely.
You probably also have a culture shock in the professional area. Probably things don't exactly work the way they were working for you in the UK.
Yeah, it's very, very different working environment. Over the years that I've been here, I've worked in various, let's just say, kind of corporate or office environments. I've always been in roles that involve offices or going in, for your short coffee in the morning. That's one of the first cultural differences, very short French coffees. Where's the milk for my tea? There's no milk in the tea for the British girl. And yes, it's a very different approach to working. What I found was the idea that you kind of have to work until the boss leaves. That was a kind of one of the kind of confused by this, because once the work's done, really. But I think things have changed, but this is back in the early days. And also people start later. In the UK, the job I had before coming to France, I worked for AXA. I'd be in my office at 8 in the morning, and we'd probably be finished at 5, when we'd have our sandwich in front of the laptop and just get on with it in shorter days. But that's not how it works in French working. That's how I discovered you'd have a much longer lunch break, which is so nice. You're not going to eat your sandwich in front of your laptop. You're going to eat properly. The working hours are different. I remember when I moved to AXA France, it was sometimes the assistants weren't in till 10. So we might be working, but they'd kind of swan in at 10, but that wasn't swanning in, that was normal. The coffee culture, it's a kind of a stereotypical thing, but it's true. You've got on the TV show where they're having the coffee around the machine. It's true. They appreciate their coffee breaks and they make time for it. A big one for me was la rentrée, back to work, back to school. And the first day back, nobody worked. Everybody was giving each other a kiss, a bisou, and you would be finding out what you did in the holidays, because such long holidays. I had nearly 50 days holiday with AXA. So with my loo days and my holidays. So, you have this situation that's nothing like the working culture back in the UK. My best friend struggles to get her 25 days. And then I'm sitting there, I've got nearly 50. I've got nearly 50 days holiday. It's good. It's a positive thing. It's just it's a different way of working. You have to adapt to the way they work. Often I would be formal in a formal dress wear, in a like dress and heels. And my female colleagues would be like, you don't need to wear that, Vicky. You don't, it's not, it's fine. It's more of a relaxed approach as well to the kind of work uniform. I learned a lot from my French colleagues and how to adapt, how to work differently. But you do work slightly later, I would say, than in the UK.
You received your first pay slip. Any surprise? Were you expecting to pay social charges?
I get this French pay slip from the accountant, and there's so many lines on it. What is this piece of paper? And yeah, you lose a lot of your money. And that was a massive shock to me. Thank you for bringing that up, because that still is a shock to me. So we're 19 years down the line. The social charges, a part of the earnings in France, is something that many people, when they arrive from other cultures and other countries, it can be, you're taking a big hit on the social charges. And if you're a business owner, which I am now, I had my meeting with my accountant last week, and the hit is, you're taking up to 75% social charges if you're a president of an SAS, 45% if you're a gérant, a director of a SRL. So you have to get your mind around that you're paying that for your new life. That's how I kind of got my head around it, because otherwise you could leave and think, well, I'm not going to earn enough, For me, it wasn't about I didn't come here initially for earnings. I left a great salary and came to France on very little. I abandoned a career. I was about to be made a key account director, and I resigned to live my dream. So for me, when I found out about the social charges and the taxes and things like that, yes, it was a bit of a shock, but I think it was psychologically, it was like, well, that's my cost for living in the French Riviera. That's what you do to be here in France. So it is a big shock when you see the gross at the top. Wow, you see the gross, and then you see the net, and it's like, well, what's happened in between here? Oh, it's gone to the French state, for maternity, for pensions, for unemployment, which is amazing, because I've benefited from that regime, the unemployment regime here. It's so different to any other country. So when you sit back and you look at what you're getting or what you could get, congé maternité, your maternity leave, I had 3 years where the state paid me around 750 euros to stay home with my girls. That's where your social charges go. They go to give you or others a nice life with the children, or if they're unemployed, they need a bit of support. So yeah, it's a tough one to swallow, but I get it. I fully embrace the social charges now.
Nice was a surprise destination. What was your first impression of the region?
Never intended to live in the French Riviera. Again, going back to that beach where me and my husband were sat on the beach. We weren't married at the time, obviously, it was my boyfriend, but we were sat on the beach. And I remember thinking, we move back, when we come back to France, when we do this dream, we're going to move to that same area, which was the Perpignan area. And I remember saying, well, we would never be able to go to the rich man's Med. It's a totally different Med. We'll stay in the poor man's Med at the time, Hadn't really been renovated and things like that. It was a very different Perpignan to what we know now. And I never in my wildest dreams, was never on the radar, never ever. It was for me, it was an impossible thing to imagine myself living in that glitzy Cannes, Saint-Tropez, Monte Carlo, Nice. So that was like, oh wow, we're going to that side of the Med now. We're not going to this side, we're going to the other side with the job as well. You're always pinching yourself in a way. It's like, is this actually happening? And it did happen. And it was everything that I'd imagined. We came out before, obviously, to have a look around and get a feel for it with my mum, my mother-in-law, my sister-in-law. We kind of came out in a gang. And it was everything that you see. It's a fabulous place. So yeah, it was, I discovered a new region by moving here. It was definitely like, wow, for sure. When you're on a Vespa, a red Vespa, driving along the coast to go and swim in the sea. We didn't even have a lot of money really, but you don't need a lot of money to go to the beach. You don't have to go to a private beach. You can just go and sit on the beach and appreciate the view in the sea. Yeah, we couldn't believe it. Antibes, discovering all these places. And now it's somewhere that we would struggle to leave, for sure.
So I'd like now to focus more on your professional life. You have this job at AXA. How do you go from that job to where you are now? What happened?
I've been very lucky in my life in France, in my career, in my working life, in that because I'm bilingual and because I have financial background and was really trained massively by both AXA UK and AXA France. So I used to do Facebook posts about my work in AXA France because every time I went to Paris on the 6 o'clock red-eye flight, I'd say death by PowerPoint to follow. Because in both of my jobs, so not just in France, the training was immense. And I can only thank AXA for that because they trained us so well in such a myriad of things. But working for a multinational, obviously you have the hours they wish to have, you are on the training courses they want you to go on, and that training course might be irrelevant. You might find that training course irrelevant. So you might be on the 6 o'clock flight to go to training, and then you're sitting for 8-9 hours in a dark room, fueled by short coffees, while someone talks at you, because there wasn't a lot of engagement. It was pure training. But from those jobs, I was able to get so much knowledge on UK, from AXA UK, and then the French financial services through being in Paris. It was always turning around my head that one day I'd like to use that knowledge that I got. But I was always really scared, and I think it goes back to that first pay slip and the first job when I was alone as a financial advisor. I only did that for 1 year. And I really felt lonely, and I also thought it's going to be really hard to make money. And there's a lot of competition. And it was a very male environment as well. Back in the day, it still is really, but it's changing, thankfully. I left AXA, went into a completely different role, which was in insurances. And it was there when I realised that I had to take control of my own future, make something happen. Because we'd made it happen to come here. Getting all the various roles I'd had was kind of, I didn't feel that I made that happen. I felt that was natural, those roles. 4.5 years ago, I was like, I have to look forward now. I have to take control of what I want to do, use all this knowledge, and use all this knowledge to benefit others. And I think that was really key. So I decided to do a master's degree. And that was the gap. That was how I bridged the gap from employment to where I am now, because the master's degree and the AMF financial certifications, they gave me knowledge. It was rigorous. It was extreme learning. I mean, I've cried. I nearly threw my laptop out the window. I nearly gave up so many times. A French master's degree in financial engineering was extremely, extremely hard with young people. I was in a classroom with 20-year-olds and I'm, 46 years old. So a lot of it was a struggle. But in my mind, I was like, this is what's going to bridge the gap. I have the knowledge that I've got from my paid employment, from UK, from France. I have some new insurance knowledge from this role I had with a company called Zigo. I paid for the masters, signed up. It was so condensed and so, 400 and odd hours, basically a master's in 8 months. But I used the fact that I had a lot of time in the week because I wasn't seeing clients or moving around or flying anywhere. I didn't go to Paris really. So I used my time, I used my weekends, and basically decided if I get this master's, I'm going to create my own company with a focus on financial planning for expats and females mainly. That's where we are now. So, but for me, it was the studying. It was this ultra focus on studying to get credibility as well with my French peers. I wanted to be able to say to the French financial advisors that I see once or twice a week for events, I want to be on the same level. They did French degrees. They did French masters. They've been through French system. I haven't. I did UK system and UK chartered exams. How do I now have credibility in France with my peer group? It's a moment of pride when I can be I go to meetings pretty much weekly with insurance companies and investment houses from Paris. They'll say, oh, is that an English accent? You're English. Because there's nobody else that's of a different nationality in these meetings. And I'm very proud to say, I have my market down here in the Alpes-Maritimes and the Var, and I have a master's in French financial engineering. I have my AMF certificate. And that, for me, is credibility. I guess it's the trigger point to create what I am. Maybe I wouldn't have done it if I hadn't done the master's degree.
It brought you credibility, but was it a requirement, and has it opened doors?
I would have been able to open my company purely on experience. I had so much experience in the wealth management side with Assurance Vie, the investment products, and Luxembourg investment products through my work, through my paid work. And because I've worked in financial services since 2001, with a good CV, with my language ability, I would have been able to set up a brokerage. However, the AMF and the financial and engineering, that allowed me to get a different status. And there's only around 4,900 CIF, which is conseillère en investissement financier, which is basically an investment advisor. There's only, for the population of France, more than 60 million, there's only around 5,000 of us in the whole of France. So that, I believe, has opened doors. When I can say to people, I'm a CIF, I'm a conseillère en investissement financier, that allows me to do different investment strategies for my clients. It's easier for me to find even more solutions for my clients because of this status that I have within France. I didn't need to do it. The vast majority of financial advisors can give financial advice without this accreditation. But for me, it was very important. The financial engineering degree, it has really helped because I understand about marital regimes in France and how it works. I know more about inheritance tax than I've ever known because it's all about the engineering side of it, how to set things up to help clients. It's kind of my inner geek come out in that. And so now if somebody mentions something to me in a meeting, I can go, that's to do with the marital regime, or they could probably benefit from changing the marital regime, or meeting with a notary. I'll help them find a notary. And that's not a financial product, and that's not financial advice. That's beyond. That's going the next step. I wanted to get away from products and just saying, have this, do this policy. I wanted to be that person that you could come to and ask information about how it works, how it truly works in France, and educate. So people aren't just signing something that they don't know what they're signing. And I guess that's one of the motivation factors for me. If people have a consultation with me, they leave and they know more about what they've already maybe signed up for 10 years ago, but at least they know what they've got. That master's degree was key, credibility, key for opening doors, but also to help the people I want to help, which is the clients in front of me, understand better the French system and the laws, because it was basically like a legal degree, and a lot of high legal content was in that. So hence why I wanted to throw my laptop out the window on numerous occasions. But I did it. And I actually got a mention bien. I got a 15, I got a 15. But I gave up my life. I didn't see my friends, I kind of retracted. Sundays weren't with my kids, they were studying. But, you have to have a little bit of sacrifice if you know what you want. Now I have Sundays with my children.
Does it help that you're a native English speaker and that you are not living in your own country to explain to your clients how the French system works?
Being British, it helps me get clients. So that's the first thing about it. The fact that I have the French knowledge and can explain it in English, that is also really, 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 really key. If I'd been in the UK doing this job, it would be much, much harder for me because I'd be the same as all the other financial advisors in the UK. I guess what I have is slightly different. The fact to kind of go between the two, to have the French training, geeky as it may be, but I can kind of, with my kind of personality isn't really very geeky, but I kind of managed to bring that to life in English. Funnily enough, my first 2 clients were French, so that I did not expect that. Like, I didn't expect to move to Nice. I didn't expect the social charges. I definitely didn't expect my first 2 clients to be French, because I thought I'd pigeonholed myself into this British financial advisor. But actually, no. So somewhere along the line, it kind of goes across networks. It's not just the fact that I'm British.
How did you actually start your practice then? And how did you get your first clients?
I decided to set up a proper company. I could have gone as a kind of self-employed, but I wanted to build a proper structure. Again, credibility. I wanted to set up from the get-go. I wanted it to be a company. It wasn't that easy, to be honest. Even with the level of French that I have, it wasn't that easy. And the accountant that I had set me up on the wrong code. Now, when you set up your company, you have to have the correct code that goes on your certificate. And they gave me this ridiculous code. I couldn't open a bank account. I was putting the code on there. Nobody wanted to open a bank for me. And I'm like, well, I'm a financial advisor. Why do they not want a financial advisor? I'm very credible. Why do they not want me to have a bank account? Finds out, I look on the terms and conditions, and they don't open bank accounts for these certain codes. So there's all these codes on the internet. And I'm like, my code's in the list. I'm like, they don't want to do business with me because I'm in there with the arms dealers and I'm in there with the gambling companies. But I'm a financial advisor. What do you mean? So I ring my account and I'm like, what's going on? I'm on the blacklist. And he was like, yeah, we need to change your code. And I'm like, yes, please. Can we please get the code? That created so much stress for me. It was like a massive kind of hurdle. Because I'm autonomous, I can open my own bank accounts. I can speak to banks. And I had my capital with the notary waiting to be transferred to make everything done. I've got my capital, I've got my bank account, I've got my accountant, I've got my certificate. But my certificate had the wrong code on it. And I tried to get professional liability insurance, and I got rejected from my professional liabilities insurance. So this is when we knew that, it's a small error, a very, very, very small error in French paperwork. It got rectified, and then I got everything, obviously. I got my correct code, I got my bank account, I got my professional insurance. But yeah, the journey was not easy. First client was amazing, actually. My neighbour who's French, she wanted to be my first client. So she said, can I be your first client? No. Okay, you can be my first client. Second client was someone who'd followed me on Facebook for a very, very, very long time, who I known from the UK. And they moved to France. And they'd followed my journey and contacted me and said, would you invest for us, please, when we move? And I'm like, I felt, quite wow. So that was my first investment client, was someone who'd followed me on Facebook, who knew me before when I was in the UK, never had much contact. And then the trust in me, that was immense. I mean, you have to have a lucky break somewhere along the line. Since then, it's my network around the Alpes Maritimes, the school network. It kind of has helped me. And being in an expat environment, obviously, it does open doors. As I say, it would not have been that easy for me in the UK.
When you thought of opening your own practice, were you aiming at the international community, or with your French qualification, you were thinking of having French clients as well?
I hadn't fully realised how international it was, in all honesty. But yeah, it was very apparent very quickly how many different nationalities have chosen this area as their home. I think really I was looking more for the international clients, local. It was very important for me that they were local when I had my first ideas. And I also wanted to help my female network to give them more confidence, to help them better their situations or understand more female financial planning, female seminars. I've got nothing against men, that's not what I'm trying to say. But it was just to give some more tools to females in my network. And I think that was really important for me to help people as well that don't speak French. And I often have people who they open their phone app and they will show me what they have with the bank. But I'll say, well, what have you got with the bank? And they don't know what they have with the bank, not all the time. You know, the bank will often get you in, and it's normal. They're providing a service, and it's a great service. But it's the lack of knowledge. What have you got in this bank app? What, you know, are you in an assurance vie investment plan? Are you in a stocks and shares plan? Do you know what an assurance vie investment plan is? Have you heard of a PER? You're in a PER pension, but do you know what that is? And I think it's just going the next step, is to helping on the education side of things.
How did you decide how much you charge, and was that difficult?
From the outset, I decided that my brokerage would be accessible. It was really, really, really key for me. I wanted it to be that if someone that has 50 euros free at the end of the month, they've paid all their bills and they've got 50 euros, that we can find them a solution for 50 euros. Because I believe that wealth management, financial advice, insurance advice, it's not just for wealthy people, it's for everybody. I think the earlier you start, so for the late teens, you know, get them involved as well. Sometimes the consultations with my peer group, when I asked my French peer group what they would be charging, and they'd be more kind of, some of the figures were crazy, you know, like 500 euros for a consultation, or a report, or 250 euros, 300. You were seeing quite large amounts of money. And I wanted to be able to have wealth management consultations separate to administrative problems or trying to understand what a product is. So I set a scale that some people have said, and many have said to me, you aren't charging enough. But then that goes against the whole point in starting this wasn't to charge exorbitant fees. It was to give some people, you know, access to financial advice in France. What else I found in financial advice, sometimes you have to have 200,000 euros to be followed by a financial advisor, or you have to have 500,000 euros to be at that private bank and have an advisor who's giving you market information or helping and holding your hand. But I'm like, well, what about the person who's got 3,000 euros that wants to invest in a pension, or 5,000 euros that wants to invest? They merit someone that's going to tell them how to invest as well. I kind of turned it on its head, and I do low fees. My admin rates are very, very low compared to what, say, someone who wanted help to set up an auto entrepreneur or just basic information on taxes. They're very low. But I stand by that. I didn't do this to set the world on fire and be huge billing. If I wanted to do that, I stay in the UK. I would have stayed in the UK and I would have been doing that kind of thing. It's not what I want to do. So yeah, it was very, very hard for me. And even with low fees, with my personality, I do struggle when I do that bill. When I'm writing my bill in my billing system, it's all very, you know, very, very structured. Kirby Consulting, it's all done. When I have to send it, I feel, you know, I quite like that meeting. I enjoyed that meeting with that person. We had a nice coffee, and so my kind of friendly personality comes out, and I don't want to bill them. I have this anguish. So yeah, it's a very good question, because it's really hard to set the fees in place. But then for me, it's been doubly hard to send that bill out. I'm getting more used to it, but I do struggle with that. I struggle as one person in my business. I struggle being the billing lady. The billing lady struggles with that, I have to say. I'm definitely not cutthroat. Definitely not.
It's very different to follow the company's billing procedure, in actually billing yourself.
Yeah, really.
Wow. What is the most common misconception your clients have about managing finances in France?
I think that because it's quite tricky for some of the clients to ask the questions to the bank. Not everybody, of course. I'm not saying everybody can't speak French, but financial French is a different level. So going to a bank and having an in-depth conversation about how a portfolio should be built, the risk profile, am I medium risk, am I high risk, am I low risk, and they're asking you questions in French, that can be quite daunting. But actually the investments that we have got, including the banks, they're quite simple really to understand. But you have to have the correct explanations of how they work. France is quite complicated on the paperwork side of things as well. It might be, well, do I really want to invest when all the, I don't know what I've got. So I think if you have someone that's explaining to you, it can simplify the world of French investing and the bank accounts that are available and, the tax-free accounts, the livret A, and understanding how they all work. And I think, yes, that's what I'm trying to do, is to help people understand that actually it's not that daunting or tricky. There are solutions out there, and they're very, very good. They're really, really good for inheritance tax planning, for tax-free growth within the wrapper, for choice. You can open them for your children if you wanted to open it for university. You can start. There's so much you can do, but I guess it's that people think it's complicated and it's very French. But we're in France, so I'm here to make it easier to invest, basically. The French have got amazing choice. They really have. It's just understanding what they have.
Do you have some rewarding moments with your clients?
Yes, every day. And I think that's why I fully realise now that I'm like, right, I'm going to make this work. Because when you wake up in the morning, you have a spring in your step, you have a smile on your face, and you know that somewhere along the line in that day, you are going to help someone. So many different situations that I can be confronted with in a day for my clients. But when you finally help them, or you deblock, because I do help clients on some admin sides of things. So I managed to find the solution for that problem, or I managed to save them loads of money because they've been with a certain insurer for 15 years and then they move to me and they save 2 to 3 grand a year. That, when I know I've saved someone thousands annually just by moving a couple of contracts, giving them the same level but saving them so much money, that I love that. I love that they can then use that money to put to one side for some flights, or for the children, or for themselves. Going to get a facial, treat myself to a Michelin dinner tonight, because that money was going to an insurance company. And now that money that I've saved them is in their bank. I have one example, it's one of my favourite ones. A lady who'd been with the same provider for years and years and years, and just managed to, with one contract, save €2,000. €2,000. And the second contract with this really lovely lady was another 1,000. So just by having a quick chat, we managed to get 3 grand in the account of my client. That wasn't going to the insurance company. So that gives me energy. It makes me feel happy. It makes me realize I'm on the right track. Sometimes it's not easy. French insurance companies aren't easy to deal with. There's a lot of paperwork. You have to be strong. The client has to be strong. Moving things around in France is tough. There can be a lot of hurdles. But yeah, the money saving side of things is really makes me feel good. Yeah.
Must be a lot of celebrations.
Yeah,
after.
it's but there's so many ways to do it that we just put blind faith in our insurers because we've been with them for years, or the bank. Often it's the bank, and we need the insurers, we need the bank. But you can have the same level of insurance for a lot less money. So I do enjoy that bit about it. And also when you see a portfolio that you've built and you can see that it's going in the right direction and it's growing. So that gives me a good boost as well.
I can see there's a lot of passion behind what you do.
I can't hide it. Definitely can't hide it. Even if I tried.
I think it's the very first time I'm meeting somebody who works in finance and is so sparkly.
That makes me feel very happy. It was the goal.
I'd like to reflect now a little bit on your personal journey, how this path has shaped you, not just as a professional, but as a person living between 2 cultures. We've just touched it. Is there a proud moment in your relocation journey when you thought, yes, I've made it?
That's quite a tricky one. But yeah, I think when I managed to get the company fully sorted after all the hurdles. So then once I had the company, that's just the beginning. I had to get all my licenses, because they're licensed. I have to be licensed to give it financial advice and insurance advice and to give the investment advice. So when I got from the authorities, the French authorities, that email, it was actually 3 different emails that I needed. They had to assess me. They had to assess my CV. I had to send, I don't know how many criminal record things to the authorities, or my insurances, or I had to send quite a big file, as you can imagine. And there was quite a lot of delays. So I sent them back in kind of March, I believe. And I had to get these very important emails that I'd been accepted into the fold. Like, it was like, this was this moment of, will they accept me? Am I going to get into the Professional Standards Association, the ANACOFI? Will they take me for the licensing, which is the ORIAS? Will they take me for the financial markets, which is AMF? You're just waiting for someone to decide, and they have committees. So on 3 occasions, I was in the committee. I wasn't allowed to be there, but they were talking about my file. Your ears are burning. And those were the moments when I got the 3 emails saying, you're in. It's like, oh, I'm in. I'm actually a French financial advisor. And that was just the moment that I think, yeah, I've been really accepted, because I didn't go down the expatriate financial advice route, which you can passport through different countries. I went through the full French accreditation. It's going to be every year, a lot of hours of French training, but that's what I wanted. I wanted to be on the French side of things. So that was for me. I've been here for 19 years. I'm in. I'm accepted. I'm in. That's when you realise that my knowledge, my qualifications, it's valid. I really am valid in France, not just in a British environment. So yeah, I was very proud of that. That made me feel good. Yeah.
Surely did. Looking back, would you do anything differently?
Yes, I would have done this way, 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 way long ago. I would not have waited. When I think about it, I should have started it. When I started thinking about it, I should have done it. I should have leapt in, really. But I erred on the side of caution, and my children were older. It's much easier to do this when you have 2 teenagers than 2 very, very small children. So I guess, all works out in the end, but I think really I could have been doing this for much longer. 48 years old now. I probably could have started a while back, in all honesty. And I probably wouldn't have left AXA. Sometimes I regret leaving AXA in Paris, but you have to think, well, you left and then you were able to take that time to do your master's degree. So it goes in swings and roundabouts, doesn't it, really? But it was good to work for a blue chip company. I really enjoyed that. Maybe I shouldn't have left AXA, but then at the same time, would I have ever started this if I'd stayed in the blue chip company? So, I guess no regrets.
What's the most valuable lesson from building a professional life abroad?
When you get punched down, you just get back up. Don't let them keep punching you down. You just got to keep going back up. It's not easy, even now with clients that I have now. What's behind me is, I'm British with my energy, my sparkle, as you say. But behind me are French investment houses, French insurance companies, French banks. And they have they have their procedures, not as sparkly as me. I have to manage my clients, but I'm also managing them on the demands and requests from behind me. That's really tough. And I do feel like sometimes I'm bringing them a client, and then you get knocked down, and then it's like, well, from a compliance point of view, everything has to be very, it's financial advice. It has to be very clear. There can't be any question marks. So it's paperwork again. You're back to, and I think being tenacious. You just gotta keep going. Don't let, you're gonna get hit down sometimes. Some days are tough, but remember what you're here for. I think that's for me. It's get back up, remember the focus, find the solution from what's behind me, take it back to the client. I'm like this intermediary with a smile, and hope that hope it all works out. But yeah, tenacity is key.
Anything you'd wish you'd known before?
I wish I'd gone on a course about dealing with direct clients, because the vast majority of my career was B2B. So I was representing AXA in the UK, but I was dealing with UK financial advisors. I was working with AXA in France, I was working with French financial advisors. I was working for Zigo, I was working with French insurance brokers. So my career was all of this knowledge, but it was working in tandem with a financial professional or an insurance professional. So it's the first time really in my later career that I'm dealing with individuals with all their, subtleties and their needs and requirements and personalities. So that's something I think if I were to do this again, I probably would have taken, during that time I was doing all those other French exams, maybe just sit and do a course on working with B2C environments, because it was new. And that I think would have helped me a lot, actually, because it's very, very different pivoting from working with businesses to working with clients directly. It's very different. I love it, but it's very, very, very different. I prefer it from working with that kind of the French financial consultants, etc. It's very nice. It was very formal. To pivot to clients was, very different.
Especially when you try to educate people, when you were working with other financial advisor, they were talking the same language, they understood what it was.
The same language, all of the jargon. And one of my big things is to not have jargon, to not use those abbreviations, to not use the French. I have to find, sometimes in my brain, I have to scramble around to find the English.
What does financial confidence mean to you personally?
I did my first Female Stock and Finance event earlier in the autumn. It was basically about how, when we're younger, when we're students, let's say, or we're just leaving home to start our first job, we're very good at managing those first paychecks, because you're coming from a school or student environment, and then suddenly you're earning your own money. And we are so great at managing that money when we first start, because it's like, wow, but you've got to pay your rent and you've got your electric, and they're quite small bills when you first start out. And as we go through life, and maybe we earn more money, we forget that it still needs that kind of management, and you need to be looking at what you're spending in a month. So what I think is that it's financial confidence is being able to know what you've got coming in, what is going out, and what you have at the end of the month to either invest for your future or to enjoy your life. And I think that we get really bad at this as we're moving, we go through life and we sign up for like all these different Canal Plus, the TV, or we got different applications, or at the time ringtones, or whatever we used to get back in the day. And you start to kind of get a lot of direct debits in the account. And then suddenly you don't have as much financial freedom, because a high percentage of the money you earn is going out directly to all these multi-billion-dollar companies. We all need to kind of go back to how we were when we first started earning money and reassess. I do a lot of this with clients as audits and looking, well, you need to cancel that, or what is this? And sometimes we don't even know, even myself, I don't know what I've got. What is that one? To manage your money better, I think, gives you more confidence, because you're handling it. You know what's coming in, you know what's going out, you know what needs to be bought, you know what you want to enjoy. And to be able to have that, knowing that it's fine, that I can do that, I can buy those shoes, or I can go to that restaurant, or I can book those flights back to England, because you're managing your monthly well. I just think we lose touch with that. Financial planning can be so basic. It's not all about markets and stock exchanges and things like that. It's about opening your computer, doing an Excel spreadsheet, and working out how you can optimize what money you already have. If you have some spare at the end, then stick it in a pension, put it in an investment vehicle, high interest savings account with the bank, to give you more freedom. When life can go bad, life can be very, very surprising. I just feel that every individual, whether it's a female or a male, they should have their emergency account. But you can't have your emergency account if your money is not managed properly and it's all going out. For me, freedom is not necessarily having €1 million in an assurance vie investment plan. For me, financial freedom is knowing that at the end of the month, you have some money in there that you can do something that makes you happy. Or if something bad were to happen in life and you needed to move on, or you were off work for a while because of mental health or sickness or whatever that may be, life can be cruel, is that there is a pot that you have. It doesn't have to be the biggest pot ever. It has to be a pot that you can rely on to make a difficult moment easier. And that, I do believe in that. I really believe it's the simple things that give financial confidence. Yes, we all might dream of having €1 million in the bank, but you don't need that for financial confidence. You can start with the really small things. So that I do believe in that. I really do.
I'm really grateful you gave this advice. Before we wrap up, let's talk about life here on the Riviera and what it means to you today. Is life on the French Riviera as glamorous as it sounds?
It can be. I mean, it really can. When you go to Saint-Tropez for the weekend and do the market and you're walking around the fabulous village, it can feel very glamorous in the Christian Dior Cafe. That can feel glamorous. I have a really normal life. So it's taken up with work and the 2 teenagers, driving Amelie to dance. I think you can find normality in the glamour. I really do. I think most people are living a very normal life within a very amazing framework. The framework is fabulous. It's glamorous. Even today, when you arrived, you brought the sunshine, the blue skies, the views are phenomenal. What people don't say is the reality, the real life. You're living the real life in your dream with the views. But daily work and daily life is not glamorous. It's like everybody else's life. But having that possibility to go to Cannes, just pop down to Cannes, or should we pop to Nice? Do you want to go to Monte Carlo to see a show? Yes, there is definitely that glamorous side of things.
Which place, in your opinion, is the most iconic in the region?
For me, it might be surprising, but I love the Marché Fourville. It's a covered market in Cannes. It's getting a bit of renovation at the moment, so I don't go as much. But that, for me, is France. Everyone around it's having a glass of wine or a coffee. It's bustly. It's all the fresh produce. It's animated. It's not the Cannes that we see on the TV. It's the kind of real Cannes. You get 6 oysters and a glass of wine for €15. Everyone's got their baguettes and their little bags with all their veg in. That, for me, is France, and it's just 25 minutes away. So that's my favourite spot in the French Riviera.
Do you have a special spot or hidden gem?
I only discovered it really recently, which is terrible, really, because I've been here for so long. The Cap d'Antibes walk, going around the Cap d'Antibes, that is a very, very, very calming and special place. And it's like so far from the glamour, just amazing views.
How do you see the future of the region in terms of business or cultural landscape?
I think it's just going to continue to grow, in all honesty. There's so much buzz about the place. Right now, I work with a relocation company, a couple of real estate companies, and I'm finding that there's so many requests for houses in this region. US wanting to move here. UK still on the up despite Brexit. We still see a lot of UK. It still has the charm, can work here. Obviously, salaries are different in the south of France, but you can come here and work. There's definitely opportunities in Monte Carlo, in Nice, in the tourism, in the restaurants. Definitely in the expat community, there's so much opportunity. If you can bring a skill to the table, there's definitely work down here. Culturally, it's on the up. There's more and more towns like Grasse getting developed, doing more and more events. The mayor is making it more and more dynamic, and you see that even in the back country. There's more and more activities in the summer. You don't have to go to the coast. You can go to a local festival, and they're getting busier and busier. People are coming in from all over to see these cultural events. And I think it's on the up. I think with all of the exhibitions in Cannes, huge business to be made in the exhibitions in Cannes.
Vicky, thank you so much for sharing your story with us today. Your journey shows how confidence, especially around money, can completely transform how we live our lives. Thank you very much.
Thank you for having me. A real pleasure.
Yes. Thank you for listening to Living the Dream French Riviera. If you enjoyed this episode, please share it, follow the podcast, and leave a review. It truly helps others discover these stories and keeps the project growing. You can find more about Vicky and all my guests on livingthedreampodcast.com, where you'll also find a link if you'd like to support the podcast. Season 2 is currently in preparation, and I would love your input, whether that's topic ideas or guest suggestions. Please do get in touch. A heartfelt thank you to Claire Long for the beautiful music that brings warmth to every episode. I'm Cécile Liconnet, and this has been Living the Dream, French Riviera. À bientôt!